A little girl was just walking home from school, backpack swinging, shoes dusty from the long walk. She was only 8, yet in a heartbeat she was treated like a criminal. Sirens pierced the calm red and blue lights cutting through the afternoon as a police car pulled up beside her. What followed wasn't an arrest, but something far worse. Stripped of her dignity, humiliated in front of strangers, her only crime was the color of her skin. But just when it seemed she was utterly alone, someone appeared, someone no one expected. And what happened next would silence the crowd and leave the officer speechless. It had started as the most ordinary afternoon, the kind of day most children forget by the next morning. 8-year-old Maya left her little brick schoolhouse with a grin, clutching her scuffed backpack like treasure. She loved walking home, humming softly as the autumn leaves crunched under her sneakers. Her world was small and safe, multiplication tables, doodled notebooks, and the warmth of her mother waiting each night with open arms. That day felt no different, at least at first. The air smelled faintly of rain, the sidewalks glistened in places where puddles hadn't yet dried, and Maya's laughter rang out as she skipped along cracked concrete slabs. But behind the calm rhythm of her footsteps, something darker was waiting. A uniformed figure had already spotted her, and with each step she took, the invisible line between safety and danger drew closer. She couldn't have known that this simple walk home was about to place her in the center of a moment that would scar her, test her, and awaken a truth too many already knew. The police cruiser slowed, then stopped with a sharp squeal. Maya froze. At first, she thought maybe he was there to help someone else, but the door swung open and the officer's tall frame loomed over her. His shadow swallowed her small body whole. His gaze was not one of concern, but of suspicion. She was 8, yet in his narrowed eyes, she was stripped of innocence, reduced to something lesser. He fired questions at her, clipped and cold. "Where are you going? Why are you out here alone?" His voice wasn't curious, it was accusatory. Maya's lips trembled as she tried to answer, her soft voice struggling to rise above the thrum of passing traffic. But every reply seemed to deepen his frown, as if the very sound of her voice offended him. Pedestrians began to slow. A few lingered, drawn by curiosity to the sight of a small black child standing stiffly before a uniformed officer. Their stares weighed on her like stones. In their eyes, she wasn't just a child heading home from school. She was already guilty. And then came the command that made her stomach twist. "Drop your bag." Her little backpack, a canvas covered in colorful doodles, peeling stickers, and safety pins, spilled open across the sidewalk. Crayons rolled into the gutter. A well-thumbed math book splayed open. A Polaroid of Maya hugging her mother fluttered out and landed face up on the concrete. But the officer didn't soften. He sneered, as if convinced that even in crayons and photos there must be hidden danger. The whispers from the crowd grew louder. "She looks suspicious. Kids these days." Each word sliced deeper, turning her cheeks hot with shame. Maya's chest heaved. She wanted to cry, to run, to vanish, but her legs locked in place. The officer loomed over her, arms crossed, as though daring her to resist, and then came the most crushing moment. He spun her toward the car and ordered her to place her palms flat against the cold steel. Her tiny hands spread against the metal, her small frame dwarfed by flashing lights. To him, it was procedure. To her, it was devastation. She realized the truth too soon. The world saw her skin before it ever saw her innocence. The longer it went on, the heavier the silence became. The crowd didn't help. They just stared, some raising their phones, capturing her humiliation like it was entertainment. Fear smothered her until her heart thundered louder than the sirens. Her thoughts spiraled. What if he took her away? What if her mother never found her? She had no words left, only terror. And then, just as the officer reached for his cuffs, a sound cut through the chaos. Footsteps, slow, steady, unrelenting. The air itself seemed to shift. A voice from the crowd whispered, "That's her mom!" The officer turned, irritation etched across his face, until he saw who it was, Maya's mother. She strode forward in full military uniform, pressed, polished and heavy with medals that glinted beneath the gray afternoon sky. Boots struck the pavement with a rhythm of command, every step radiating strength and sacrifice. She was more than a mother in that moment. She was a soldier, a protector, a living emblem of service to the very flag stitched onto the officer's sleeve. The crowd fell silent, as though oxygen had been pulled from the air. The officer's bravado faltered, his authority shrinking in the shadow of her presence. His grip on the cuffs loosened. For the first time, he looked unsure. Maya's mother stopped just feet away, her expression carved from steel, fury contained by discipline. She didn't need to raise her voice. She didn't need to argue. Her uniform screamed louder than any words. This is a woman who has fought battles, who has bled for this nation, who deserves respect, and so does her child. The officer's face twitched, caught between pride and shame. Around him, phones that once filmed out of voyeuristic curiosity now captured his trembling hand, his faltering authority. The crowd no longer saw a suspicious child. They saw a soldier's daughter humiliated on her own street. They saw a family dishonored in broad daylight. Maya felt her mother's presence like a shield. Fear melted into relief, shame into pride. She ran into her mother's arms, burying her face in the fabric of that uniform. That hug wasn't just comfort, it was defiance. It was proof that dignity could still stand tall, even when the world tried to strip it away. But beneath the relief lingered a painful truth. No child should need their parents' medals to be treated with basic humanity. The officer stepped back, words failing him. His hands dropped to his sides as the crowd's eyes bore into him. With his authority shattered, he retreated into silence, swallowed by the very system he thought would shield him. In the days that followed, the video spread online. Millions watched. Outrage ignited. Questions flooded social media. Why was an 8-year-old black girl seen as a suspect before she was ever seen as a child? Why did it take a uniform, a symbol of sacrifice, for her humanity to finally be acknowledged? For Maya, the memory burned deep. The shame, the fear, the cold steel of that patrol car, it would never fully fade. But so too would the image of her mother standing tall, silencing injustice with nothing more than presence. That day lit something inside her, a flame of quiet determination that her story would not vanish into silence. Because this wasn't just about one little girl. It was about every child walking home with fear at their heels, every parent forced to prove their family's worth, every moment when prejudice masqueraded as procedure. The question lingers still. How many more times must this scene play out before we demand change? And when the next Maya is stopped on the street, will the world look away, or will it finally stand up,